Today we're going to learn how to draw and paint a cow. It's very stylized and very simple. You'll need watercolours, paper, brushes and a pencil. We start off with this bean shape, which is going to be the nose, and it almost looks a bit like a blindfold. And then we're going to draw a football peeking out behind our blindfold. We'll add a little bit of a line there for contour, and then we're going to add two bigger beans than eyes for giant nostrils on this bit here. They can be quite irregular in shape. It's not difficult. And small line there for the inside of the mouth, and that for the bottom lip. And then we're going to add in some side of the head and the neck just down here, just 3 simple lines. I'm going to put some horns up here, and we're filling the page today because we're going to use some big wet spaces while we paint. So with the horns, the ears can either peek out from behind or go slightly in front of them. It's up to you because they kind of can flop around a little bit. And then the eyes on the cow are very far to the sides. If you don't draw them far to the sides, it will not look like a cow. So be careful. So I'm giving them a little bit of an eyelid. Now, that one's gone far too large, so I'm going to just check my proportions. I'm going to get my rubber, I'm going to fix it, and I'm going to make the eye match the other eye. Pretty much all our watercolouring today is going to be using the wet on wet technique. So you need clean water and a couple of different brushes. We're going to fill up the tops of the horns with water and then just splash in a shadow colour. We've talked about shadows before, but I like to use either a dark blue or a sort of purplish tone or a very nice grey. I'm going to do some of the spaces apart from their neighbours because I don't want the watercolours to run too much, because I want the spaces to be sort of delineated, separated from each other. So I've done the top of the horn, and now I'm able to do the ear underneath because there's no wet paint close to the ear. And I'm not being as careful as I usually would about which colours I put together. I've got some green next to some pink. I'm happy to have a little bit of brown in here today. So you'll notice that I move from space to space, and I'm painting apart from the other spaces so I can let them dry. I've got them very, very wet, and I splash in some watercolour into the wet, and it tends to fill up the space really nicely. I just need to push it around to get it into the exact places where I want it. So you can see that blue's moving. And if it's going too far or too fast, I can just use a tissue to dry it out a little bit. So you can see I've got a tiny bit of brown down there in the nose, and I'm okay with that. It looks quite nice. When you've used your paint in as many areas as you can without getting anything smudged together, you might want to wait a little while. So at this stage, I have no real spaces I can paint where the paint won't run into the other shapes and spaces. So I might leave a little bit of time to let it dry. I'm just going to do the neck now. I'm going to use some warm colours together, and then I'm going to leave it for a few minutes just so that I'm safer painting next to my other spaces that I've worked on. So I'm now going in with the dark bits in the nostrils. I'm touching up on the nose there because I had a little bit of run from the black where it was still a little bit wet. And now I can go onto the head of the cow using the same techniques. So the final thing I'll do here is I'll wait till it's dry and go in with a nice dryish brush rather than into wet watery paint. And I'll just go over any lines and make anything clearer that needs to be clearer. But what you need to notice is the colours I'm using separate the sections of the cow, which is why it's looking 3D. So you can see that the dark pink next to the yellowy green of the nose means that the nose stands out from the face. So the whole time that you're blending this rainbow all over your cow, you're going to need to think about your colours.